District School Board releases its strategy to combat anti-black racism.
It feels like it is just a blanket way to check off a box and say that this is done.
Why some parents and black community groups are disappointed with the plan.
I can't wait to be able to help all the customers, make them feel welcome and comfortable in the mall.
Malls and retail reopen as Toronto and Peel enter the gray zone after months of being under a stay-at-home order. And
I definitely think more women need to do this.
on this International Women's Day, we'll introduce you to a free program at Toronto's George Brown College that aims to get more women into the skilled trades. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. A stay-at-home order has been lifted for Toronto and Peel. Both regions entered the grey lockdown stage of Ontario's color-coded system today. That means non-essential retail stores can finally reopen with capacity limits, of course, but indoor dining, gyms, and personal care services like hair and nail salons will have to stay closed. Our Greg Ross has more.
We were closed a lot longer than I expected.
Lisa Myrasaki owns Cool Kid on Queen Street West. She says she simply wasn't ready to open her doors to customers today.
It takes a while, when you're closed for 3 months, the place starts to look, you're full of boxes, you got to clean it all up. And so, we took today to do that. And we're redoing the window.
Many stores in the Eaton Centre were open today, but there was mixed reaction from employees returning to work there.
I'm glad to be back to work. I can't wait to be able to help all the customers, make them feel welcome and comfortable in the mall.
It's a little scary, obviously. The cases have been high and they've been going up, so I hope that this return doesn't make the cases go any higher.
And for that very reason, many people are still hesitant to return to in-person shopping.
Personally, I won't go in-person shopping.
I think more vaccines need to be rolled out and more people need to be vaccinated so that people will feel a little bit safe.
Not all businesses had the option to reopen. The doors remained closed today at restaurants and gyms.
It's just another day of lockdown.
Steve Lachelle owns Cardio Go Gym on King Street West. He can't understand why his gym is any less safe than a small shop.
We have a big facility down there. If you put a couple people in there, they keep their distance, we follow the rules. It's a safe environment for all, but I think there's that sort of illogical, irrational sense that says this is a bad place. People sweat in there.
With COVID-19 cases on the rise again, many of those who were allowed to reopen today aren't entirely confident it's going to last.
I kind of think we might close again, unfortunately. I feel like we may not get a handle on the virus just yet until more vaccinations go out.
Most businesses that reopen today must limit the number of customers for in-person shopping to 25% of their capacity. Employees must be screened before starting their shifts, and of course everyone in the shop has to wear a mask and properly physically distance. As for social gatherings in the gray zone, outdoor gatherings are limited to 10 people. Indoor gatherings are still not allowed unless, of course, with people from your own household. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
There was a sharp jump in Ontario's COVID-19 numbers today, though there is an explanation. The province reported more than 1,600 new cases. That is the highest number of new infections in over a month. However, officials say the count is higher than expected because of an error in the province's case counting system. There is also a cumulative total of nearly 900 variant of concern cases. And there is some good news on the vaccine front in Toronto. 3 mass immunization clinics have been given the green light to open 2 weeks ahead of schedule. Our Jessica Ng has more on that.
It's an amazing thing. It's almost like winning the lottery.
Maggie Naboo just got her first dose of the Pfizer vaccine at Canadian Martyrs Seniors Residence in East York. For the 77-year-old, getting the vaccine means
there's a window, or there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and we're finally going to be able to get back to life and to the economy.
Organized by Michael Guerin Hospital, it's one of several mobile clinics happening today in the city at seniors' residences. When it comes to portals for vaccination registration, municipal health units are taking matters into their own hands and launching their own systems. Toronto Hospital is setting up vaccineto.ca, a centralized website which links to local clinics. It's currently aimed at adults over 80, those receiving home care, priority healthcare workers, and Indigenous adults. The city is also preparing to launch 3 mega-site vaccination clinics on March 17th. One at the Metro Toronto Convention Centre, the Toronto Congress Centre in Etobicoke, and one at Scarborough Town Centre, which Premier Doug Ford toured today.
Once we get more vaccines, we're going to ramp it up. We have the infrastructure. We just need the vaccines right now.
Mayor John Tory says opening the sites is dependent on a shipment of 17,500 doses coming to Toronto Public Health next week.
Our immunization task force has also been told to expect a larger shipment of more than 70,000 doses at the end of this month.
Which Tory says will allow the city to open 6 other large vaccination clinics. More than 350 local clinics are set to administer vaccines, and you'll even be able to get your shots at local pharmacies. In York and Peel regions, a limited number of appointments opened up today for those over 80. And in Durham region, clinics are fully booked through Saturday. Seniors who were vaccinated today in Toronto say getting the shot was worth the wait.
I'm looking forward to this room being filled with my neighbours, and we'll have a party.
Hopefully we'll be able to get out and get with our family and be able to give them a big hug.
While thousands across the province play the waiting game for their own COVID-19 vaccines. Jessica Ng, CBC News, Toronto.
New research from Ontario's Science Advisory Table is showing the dramatic impact COVID-19 vaccines is having in long-term care homes. The findings show vaccinations have substantially reduced infections, hospitalizations, and deaths among long-term care residents and healthcare workers in the homes. Long-term care staff began getting those shots back in mid-December, while residents started getting their dose a short time later. 8 weeks after the start of vaccinations, the estimated relative reduction in COVID-19 cases was 89% in residents. For healthcare workers, it was 79%. The estimated relative reduction in mortality from the disease among long-term care residents was 96% after 8 weeks. The head of the Ryerson School of Journalism is stepping down. This comes amid calls for sweeping changes at the school to address systemic racism and discrimination. Janice Neal said in a tweet on Sunday that she is stepping down, but provided no reasons for her decision. This morning, Ryerson journalism students issued a public letter accusing the school of failing to represent and support Black, Indigenous, people of color, and LGBTQ students in the program. The letter says the school has contributed to an unsafe learning environment rife with discrimination and has left students traumatized. Now, in response, a spokesperson for the school said Ryerson continues to acknowledge the work that needs to be done to address systemic racism, adding that the school will continue to take concrete steps to address the students' concerns. A former vice principal with the Toronto Catholic District School Board is speaking out about the board's handling of the expulsion of a Black student. Following the expulsion, the student and his brother were both denied entry into a different school in the same board. Now, the brothers never made it back into a classroom before one of them was shot and killed months later. Paul Rayso says he's speaking out nearly 8 years after the incident because he continues to see the problems with the way the board handles students from marginalized communities. Afara Morale has more.
Public education is guaranteed. This was denied.
8 years later, Paul Rasso still gets emotional when he remembers what happened to 2 of his former students.
And I've seen a lot, enough for me to quit. That was it. That was the cat that I couldn't handle. Having to deal with that without trying to make an outside effort.
The brothers went to Father Henry Carr Catholic Secondary. Rasso says one was expelled for an incident where a bandana was waved, alleged to be an incitement of gang violence. The younger brother didn't go back because of safety concerns.
We advocated to keep them together. They were brothers. They were supportive.
CBC News obtained a copy of a 2013 email requesting a fresh start at a new school for the brothers, sent to the then principal of Dante Alighieri Academy. The email highlights the benefits of keeping them together, but the response from the principal, which appears to be 5 minutes later, is simply no thank you.
I was baffled, just floored. I mean, enough at this point, just distraught.
The boys never made it back to a classroom before summer. 2 months later, one of the brothers was shot and killed. The TCDSB said it couldn't comment on the brothers' case for privacy reasons, but it maintains the principal's comment in the email is being taken out of context. It also said that some messages seem to be omitted from the exchange that was shared with CBC. However, it wouldn't give us a copy of those.
I'd imagine it's extremely difficult for them.
There is no known link between the expulsion and the killing, but those who work with youth in the community say school can be a crucial form of stability.
If you don't have that, then who's to say what you might end up getting caught up with? Because once that's missing, then there's this huge block of time in your day.
Think about the cost of what happens when a child, a young person, a young Black child, doesn't get the necessary kind of education that he should be getting. Think of the implications with health situation. Think about the mental health cost here.
Carl James's research has found that Black students are more likely to be suspended, but unlike the TDSB, the Catholic Board doesn't collect similar race-based data.
How can you continue with students, working with them and addressing their issues without data?
Rasso says he continues to see the board deny students entry into schools where they could be safe, or shuffled into schools where they're unsafe.
I can't. I don't want to go to any more funerals.
And says he's now pushing for change from the outside. Farah Morali, CBC News, Toronto.
The York Region District School Board unveiled its first ever strategy to fight anti-Black racism tonight. But some parents and members of Black community groups whose input and consultation helped to frame the strategy are already speaking out against it. Our Chris Glover has more.
I went through it at 16 and my son's going through it, and it's horrendous.
A generation after going to York Region schools, Shernette Martin watched her son suffer the same anti-Black racism.
We've been embroiled in this for many years. So to see the strategy finally come about, is a start.
Now the executive director of a Black community group, she was consulted for months on the school board's new strategy to dismantle racist systems, but was let down by the outcome.
It feels like it is just a blanket way to check off a box and say that this is done, without really the meat and the work really following through.
Let us march on till victory.
She was frustrated to see the fanfare at a virtual event tonight.
I am also happy to welcome our many community partners.
It is a signal of a turning point in this board.
She says things she advocated for, like physical school spaces for Black students to seek refuge, were ignored.
It almost feels hypocritical and counterintuitive to release a strategy.
York Region District School Board didn't respond to CBC's request for comment.
We have taken a number of specific steps to support Black students in the immediate term.
But during the event, the Director of Education outlined some immediate steps, including hiring 2 Black graduation coaches. Still, implementation for the 5-year plan has yet to be designed.
I could see this strategy and the timeline being used whenever we raise concerns, that we have a strategy, we're going to get to it.
Charlene Grant's community group was also consulted for the strategy. In 2017, she was called the N-word by a board trustee who then resigned. She expected the strategy to get more specific.
She totally missed it. It was empty. It was without sincerity.
A 2017 board-wide review found systemic discrimination and a culture of fear all the way to the top. Even after that review, the attacks kept coming. In 2019, the mother of this Black Newmarket student who was beaten said he was bullied for being Black for months.
It's not just the one time.
To have this in 2021 is, like I said, amazing, Chris, but we've seen this song and dance before.
Martin just hopes this report won't get shelved. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
Coming up, a free program in Toronto is working to bring more women into the male-dominated construction industry. The details after the break. Plus,
after a cool start, boy, a mild day today. I'm meteorologist Colette Kennedy. We have a few more days like this, in fact, getting warmer. I will have the details for the week ahead coming up after the break.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
Today is International Women's Day. It's a day to celebrate the achievements of women and to raise awareness about the challenges they still face. At George Brown College in Toronto, a free program funded by the province is aiming to bring more women into the male-dominated construction industry. Our Talia Ricci takes a look.
Am I strong enough? Or am I going to be able to keep up with, mostly men in the industry?
It didn't take long for Bridget Buck to realize the answers to those questions in her mind were yes. After she lost her job due to the pandemic, she made the leap into an industry she was always drawn to.
If these other 20 or 30 other women are feeling the same way, how many other women out there are feeling the same way? And they're just too shy, or they don't have access to it.
Access and opportunity is what the Women Transitioning to Trades and Employment program aims to provide, teaching hands-on skills and career planning to set women up for success in the trades.
Women make up approximately 50% of the workforce, then why is it that less than 5% of us are represented within the skilled trades within construction? There aren't a lot of women, gender non-binary, trans, and two-spirit peoples in the industry. But if this is something you want to do, then we'll support you to make that possible.
I'm new in Canada. I just migrated to Canada in 2019, seeking protection.
Florence Gerald had experience working in construction for years in Kenya. The program is helping her navigate this sector here.
I find it fun being able to put up a light, being able to fix a bench, being able to do something. Like, for example, during our WTT program, we constructed a bench that I'm using right now in my house. It's really satisfying when you can be able to see your final product.
What are your hopes for the future of the construction industry?
I definitely think more women need to do this. When you start to see more women doing it, other younger women will start to see it as well, and then it'll just have this positive snowball effect.
If more people came in to support women, then it's going to be a very good thing to the entire nation.
Their hope is to change the face of the industry. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
This is a live look at the Toronto skyline. Partly cloudy tonight, becoming mainly clear overnight. Currently feeling like 3 degrees downtown. Let's go now to our Colette Kennedy with more on the forecast. And Colette, mild temperatures at least this afternoon, and these temperatures sticking around for at least the next few days.
Yeah, they really are sticking around this week, Helda. Yes, we can believe in this. It's quite the ride we've had today. I mean, nearly a 20-degree temperature change, because through the overnight hours, many of those readings close to -10, -9 for Toronto. But you can see, Barrie -18, -12. But watch what happens. So this is around, 4 or 5 a.m., that -9. And then we kind of take it into the afternoon hours. Once that warm front went through, even though there were a few flurries and in some cases a few sprinkles, but it was really more flurry activity that we saw that passed with the warm front. Once we got into the southwesterly flow, boy, oh boy, those temperatures picked up. So from -9 to +9 there for Toronto, and look at Windsor, 17 degrees, 11 for Chatham, Kent, Sarnia, mild there today, around 15, 16 degrees, and 10 degrees into St. Catharines. And yeah, it's going to be hanging in there for a little bit. We pick up the cloud cover through the overnight hours and hang on to it into tomorrow morning as we get a bit of a change in our wind direction. But as the afternoon comes in, we're going to see some nice erosion of that cloud. We get the sun coming back in. A few spots, maybe a bit more cloud cover in southwestern Ontario. But it's going to be it's a decent morning, but a really nice afternoon. And then with those mild temperatures, the next system that's going to be coming in, that's going to be bringing in some rain showers Wednesday. Most of it pulls to the north. We may see a few sprinkles in the late afternoon, but then we'll get into some rain showers Wednesday into Thursday. Temperatures for southwestern Ontario tonight, right around freezing, just above or just below. And then tomorrow back into the mid-teens in most cases. And for tonight, again, looking at the readings around the freezing mark here, 0 for Pearson. We should stay around 1 for downtown. And then tomorrow afternoon, check it out. going in almost all cases here into those double digits. And how long does it hang around? Well, Friday's going to be that transition day. So we'll start to see things changing over, but we're definitely mild for the next 3 days. Yes, it does become a little bit wet through here. Now, Friday, we could even see this go a little bit warmer, actually, but just kind of it's a few days out, and the models aren't completely agreeing on that one. But what I am seeing is that we'll cool back closer to seasonal by next weekend, Kelda.
All right, thanks so much, Colette.
Well, it may not look like much right now, but the people developing Toronto's waterfront have big plans for this piece of land behind me. We're talking about things like electric boat parking and maybe even some pools. I'm Nick Boisvert, and I'll have more about those plans coming up.
It's a bold vision for a neglected part of Toronto. The group developing the city's harborfront wants to turn an aging industrial boat slip into a destination for tourists and residents alike. Nick Boisvert has more on the plan for this controversial piece of land.
Unless you work in construction or drive a tugboat, you probably don't come down to the Parliament Slip very often. Chris Glashik wants to change that.
What we're looking to do now is really try to elevate our waterfront to rival some of the best waterfronts from around the world.
To do that, Waterfront Toronto wants to completely redesign this area at the far east end of our harbor. They think it could look something like this, a recreation hub with amenities like lakeside pools, kayak launches, electric boat chargers, and maybe even a floating restaurant.
What we think we need to start to do now is really to reorient the city back to the waterfront. So Parliament Slip is a great place to do that. It doesn't look lovely today, but we've got a vision for transforming this.
This vision for the Parliament Slip isn't the first time we've seen a bold, ambitious plan to transform this part of the city. The last one was led by the Google affiliate Sidewalk Labs, and it didn't go so well. That project aimed to build a new kind of smart neighborhood at the same location, unlike anything else in the world. It was scrapped last spring after years of controversy, mostly around privacy concerns and a lack of community consultation.
So I believe that
this former Waterfront Toronto board member resigned because of her concerns. She says the new plan is a significant improvement.
Well, it's fundamentally better because now their collaboration is with stakeholders that have aligned interests.
Waterfront Toronto itself says it has learned from the experience, and it no longer envisions a neighborhood loaded with cameras and sensors.
We're taking a different approach. This is going to be much more about connecting with the water, much more about recreation.
The project has no budget or timeline yet. Bringing it to life will also require funding from Ottawa and the province, which has not been confirmed. Nick Boisvert, CBC News, Toronto.
And finally tonight, a good update to a story we brought you last week. The 100-year-old veteran who was waiting for his vaccine got his first dose yesterday. Dr. Joseph Leventhal's family sent us this picture to spread the good news. He received his first vaccination at the Humber River Wilson site. The centenarian was one of the founding physicians of the Humber hospitals in the 50s, where he delivered 3,000 babies. His family says the full circle moment made the day even more meaningful. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.